Okay, so today we'll explore a little bit more about the SSMS, the studio, so you kind of get you acquainted with the systems, so you know your ways around that first before you can do some more coding there. I'm just make sure you're comfortable with the system, and don't be too afraid to explore. And then I guess you could do some damage to it. It's fine. You always reset it. That's why we're here, right? It's a learning curve for all of us. The only ways to get better is just to explore and dig in there and do some things with it. So, and because it's pretty safe, you're not going to be able to, like, if you happen to delete your database, you can always recover it back. I mean, reinstall it. But other than that, you should feel really comfortable with it. So I want to go and run that right now. If you want to do the same, and just go ahead and load your SSMS. I have a different version too. I have two versions, I think. I'm gonna load the other ones. The 2017. I have the 2012, which is the old version. I have the 2017, so let's go with that one. So if you have used this similar tools in other databases, it should be very similar in many ways. So if you have used, like, for MySQL servers, have a workbench for that as well. And also PHP MyAdmin is one very popular one used in web programming, and this is something similar. Actually has a little bit more because of the nature of it's been used as an enterprise version, so you have a lot more with this system. You can, because we didn't really install everything there. We didn't install the BI, the report systems. All of those can be installed in the studio, and you can use all of that to control or generate reports. So on this screen, right, so everything you log in here, you have to connect to your server name, which is your instance of the SQL Server you created. You can have multiple ones too. You can have, if you want to go back and install another one, you can do that as well. Okay, so once you do that here, just make sure you select the database engine. That's what we want to do here. The rest will be like report and services here for other things, but we're not going to do with this class. So I have, as you can see, I have 3 of them. Okay, and let's see if I have another one here. Yeah, I have 3. Why don't I have 3 here? Well, okay, I'm just going to grab I think I used the 2012A instance. Let's see if that's the one I have. Okay. So this is a different one. So as you can see, I have one installation here. I know the screen's a little bit small. Wish I could zoom this in, but let me do this. Let me go into screen here and do a display. We'll make that a little bit. This one. Oh no, is that too big? Kind of stretched. Right. Let's see what that looks like. Don't need that for now. A little bit better. Okay. So here I have one instance. Okay. If you want to connect to another one, you can just click this icon here, the connector here. You click that, it takes you back here, and I can connect to a different server. And then, if it's successful, I have 2 of them, right? So this is a different server instance, and this is a different one here. So you can connect to multiple ones at the same time, and you can just refer back to either one here. Okay, so that's how you can connect to your database. So this is the one I think I probably had this one here, 2014. All right, so this one here is your Explorer the toolbox here has some other stuff which we don't really use here for now. You don't see it, but you don't need that. So the Explorer here, on the right side, the Solution Explorer, the properties is very similar to Visual Basic. If you remember, if you're taking Visual Basic, or if you're used to the Microsoft Visual Studio products, it looks just like that. Okay, so we're not going to do any projects. If you do, you go in here and you can create new projects and then so on. Right? We're not going to do that. So all we are doing is just basically interacting with the database here. So if you want to use, like for example, you want to write, like in the book mentions, I think the last 2 chapters about C# and C++, right? So if you use that, you can do it in here too, but we're not going to do that one. So don't worry about that. We're not going to do any programming in that sense. We will be doing some programming though in SQL later on when you get to write functions and your own store procedures. Okay. One thing I want to make sure that we have this working is if you expand this database or any database you have, later you will be creating your own database as well. So for now, and if you expand that folder, you will see this database designs or this database diagrams. Okay. If you double click or if you do a right click, and then if you select the new database diagram, okay, you may get an error. If you don't, you should see this window here, and it should list all the tables from within this database. If you have an error, please let me know, because we need to fix it. And you'll be doing this, and not this lab, but the next lab assignment, you have to generate these tables, these diagrams here.
What did you click on? New database diagram?
Yes. So if you might get at first an error. Let's see. If I try a different database, for example, if I do a right click, or if you double click it, it could ask you. Let's say, do you have? If you ask you a question like this, just say yes. So, do you want to create them? So, database does not have one or more of the support objects. Do you want to create them? Just say yes. If you have this message, okay. If you have a different message, it just says that you need to have some type of ownership or something like that. That's an error. And if you do have that error, then we need to fix it before you can generate tables, the diagram. So how many of you have the errors that say you need to generate? Okay. So let's fix that first. So cancel that out, and then go into. So you click your database. So in your case, it would be AdventureWorks. So you do a right click. Okay, and go to the Properties tab. Okay, so you should see this screen here, and then go into the Files. Select the Files tab here on the left, top left, and we need to add ownership. So yours may not have, yours may be empty. Okay, so you have to have ownership for this database in order to design and show the diagram. So what you do is, in the file selected, you go ahead and click this ellipsis button here on the right side. Click on that, and have another window, and you're going to have another window again. So keep going. And then now down here, we're going to add the object names in here, which is the ownership. So click the Browse button, and then here you should have a list of different objects. And the one that you want to check is the one that says System, Ent Authority, NT Authority, whatever it is. It says System, and you click on that. Click OK. Okay, and then OK again. You just go OK all the way back, and then it should take you back out to the main screen. And now it should work. If it still doesn't work, let me know. But it should resolve the problem. Okay, got it? No?
This database does not have one or more of the support objects required.
Okay, let's see yours first. So for the rest of you, you do right click and then let's do a new diagram design. Just click OK with yes, and then select some tables. You don't select all of them, just select a few of them, and then just click OK. Okay, so let's. Oh, okay, you're good to go. Just say yes. You have to say yes. What happens in here? Installing?
Yeah.
Are you
I don't have quite a space for that. So
is this machine or this system?
Yeah,
Okay.
they had 2012 and they didn't have SQL SMS on them, so.
Okay. Well, yeah. I think. Yeah, I don't know if they have it or no, not. I'm check. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't see it either. Well, actually, mine does. Doesn't have any
Oh, it's Windows 10 notification, so I don't know if it's the way to look out for it.
Yeah, it should be under 12. Just scroll down. Just look.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's configuration.
yeah.
To search was SSMS. Yeah, that one there.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can cancel the installation for that one.
All right.
Let's see if that. Yeah, that should work. Okay, so once you do a right click and at the new diagrams, right, you can just select a few of them. If you press the, I think the shift key, okay, or the control key, just to pick and choose. Control key and then press, and select just some tables, for example, okay, and click add, and that should give you this. It's called the ERD diagram here. So it's kind of small. I can zoom in and zoom out. You can see the tables and all their relationships. You can move this around. You can resize it. Okay, just pretty self-explanatory. You can resize these, and then so on. Okay, so sometimes when you do your code, when you want to like pick and choose which table to choose and from which table, whether those two tables have any relationships or not, you can look at the big picture here. Is you can combine pull data. So, for example, later on when we go to chapter 4, I think chapter 4, where you or I forgot which chapter, but when we do queries for multiple tables, you have to look at these tables and see their relationships, how they're connected. Okay, so in this example here, this one here is connected to this table here through a key, right? So therefore, I can pull data from these two tables here using those common keys. Whereas if I want to do this and this, it may not be able to do that because they don't have anything in common. Okay, there are other ways to do it, but a little bit tricky. But usually, you do it through these keys, these connectors here. Okay, so we'll learn more about the types of relationships these tables have and how we're going to create these tables as well later on. So I just want to show you this one here, and your next assignment you also are required to make this, or not make, but get a screenshot of this diagram here and then put it in the assignments. So since we're not going to be using the Explore window here, you can actually close these so you have more space. These are some properties if you want to close all of them. And if you want to get them back, they're always available here in the view. And then you can always get them back here in the Properties, Solution Explorer, and Properties window, and so on. Okay, but for now, this is the diagram for your table, so you can see how they're like. Okay, so you can close that. If you want to save it, for example, you can save this as well, and then save it as a file, and then you can, upload that, or you do whatever you want to use with that. Otherwise, you just close it. I don't want to save it, so that's okay. So we did find, just against the assignment, you should have already kind of figured out how many tables we have in here. If you were, because they didn't tell you how to do it, right? You will probably count every one of these one by one. I'm sorry if that's the pain, but did anybody find a shortcut to find it?
There was some ones
Yeah. Yeah. So you cheated, right? No, it's good. No, you. No, that's good. Yes, there are ways to find out by using statements, and you just say sys.tables will give you all the table counts. Sys.triggers will give you all the triggers and so on, right? But of course, you can always go here and visually count these by hand, which is fine too. So tables are here. Okay, anything that inside this table here, you will see it's a pretty long list. So under here you have all the views. So all these, so each table, each database will have these features in there along with it. So for example, my DB is the one I created, just a blank database, has all these features in here. So later on, all the views that you create will be stored in here automatically. Synonyms will be also saved in here. The programmability, this is your functions and procedures. Okay, we'll do some of these here in here as well later on. And then these are things that we're probably not going to touch, but security maybe later on when we do like the last 2 weeks of class. Okay, so mostly it's going to be just your database and the tables, and then later on the views. Okay, these two will be probably the most we'll be using just the 2 tabs. Okay, so that's your database. Up here, you should have these. If you don't have this toolbox here, just make sure you go into the view and the toolbox and then turn them on. Okay, the editors, the tools. I think there's another way tool. Okay, so by default you should just have these. The ones that we want to use is this button that says New Query. Okay, so if you click on New Query, it should have this new window here open for you ready to use. And this is just basically it's a temp file. As you can see, it's called SQL query1.sql. Okay, and if you click another one, you have SQL2 and 3 and so on. And you have also a number here, 53, 52. If you click another one, it says 54 and so on. So this is like, if you think about this, like a port number, or it's like a tracking number or an ID for this query. And you will see that this becomes useful later on as well when we learn about locking techniques. How you can lock one query from the other. And so one of these statements here, well, this page is actually an object itself, and so it has an ID attached to it. So this is a process. So when the script and this SQL statements here runs, you can actually write the other ones. It's a different ID, so they don't overlap each other. So you can control so you can prevent the locking mechanisms from causing what's called a deadlock, which we'll learn later on. But for now, this is the place where you'll be putting your code. Okay, so you have line numbers. If you don't see line numbers, you have to turn those on. And that is usually, and if you go to like remember tools, options. Okay, so if you go to tool options, you have all these settings here, just like any other IDEs that have something similar. So you can change the configurations here. Again, go and play with it. Okay, so the environment is what you should see for your whole environment here. Line numbers, I think, is probably in the editor here. So the text editor applies to this screen here where you type your stuff. So if you expand the text editor, right, under the general, for example, you'll see, well, these other ones. Just turn all these on. The languages, okay, so you have all the languages. If you click on the languages by default, you see the word wrap. Just make sure that's on. Line numbers right here. If I turn that off, you see that that line number is gone, so it's not really useful. You should have the line number turned on so you can track your code. Because when you do something like this, and I try to run it, you see that it says line 1, or actually no, yeah, right. So it will tell you what line number to refer to. So I'm going to go back and turn that back on. So the number here, but I think by default it should already turn on. But just in case if you happen to turn it off, then of course. Okay. And in here, if you want to put some comments in there, if you are familiar with other languages, you can also comment your code in here. It's useful to put comments in your code, especially if you have a query that maybe loads a lot of data for you, and you want to know what it's supposed to be doing. Then you put a comment in there, right, either above it or within it. So the comment in SQL Server is you can put a double dash like that. You get a single comment. Okay. So you can do that for each comment, and that will be ignored by the engine. So you can put it, say, the following script does this, or whatever it is, so you know what that is. If you want to do multiple lines, you can put this / and then you put your comments in here, and then close it back with the star and then / So this is for multi-line comments, and this is for single-line comments. Okay, so you only have those two options. And again, feel free to comment your code, and sometimes it's also very helpful. And you can always save your script. So this is not saved yet, even though it is named as SQL query1.sql. It's not really saved until you say save, or you do a Control S to save it, and it will save it somewhere wherever you want to save it with that default name. And you can always change it to whatever you want to call it. Assignment 1 SQL or project 1 something, or however you want to call it, it's fine. So let's just say if I save this, it's always good to save it, because if you do your work, you can always go back and refer to those code. Okay, so let's just say I want to save this one just so I know where it is. It's inside here. That's fine. I'm going to say SQL 1. So if it's all green like this, it should show you that you didn't make any changes to your script. Yep.
Mine's not adding any lines for some reason.
You don't see the line numbers?
Okay, pardon?
You don't see the line numbers here?
I see number 1, but it won't let me go to 2, 3, 4, or whatever. It won't.
You can't type anything?
I can type in letters and numbers, but then that's all I can do. Not that I'm aware of. Okay. Well, I think so. So yeah. That was He's a fool, I'm not a doctor. I hear you. I don't even put him on TV.
Yeah, okay. All right. So so when you modify something, it will turn yellow. Okay, so just tell you that you made some changes. Okay, when you save it, then everything goes green again. There's no changes. Just something about the IDE kind of help you with that. And on the right side, you see the marker over here. Okay, anything that is incorrect will be in red. So you see the red marker. If you click on it, it will take you right into that position. So just say if I'm way down here, and you can also drag this too if you have a lot of code. Okay, if I go here and click on it, it will take you right to that error. If you have a lot of errors, for example, like that, right? And then you can just go ahead and click on it. It will take you right to those positions. Okay.